be able to help us combat desertification. Honorable Speaker, on food security, I don't want to belabor so much. On the next point, Honorable Speaker, on section 24 of this bill is on project preparation and implementation, especially on the standards and procedures. Honorable Speaker, I am very much eager to see how this bill will be able to ring-fence this fund so that it's not going to be another fund like the equalization fund or any other fund that normally stalls in courts or is being even abused in terms of implementation by our county governments. And therefore, even as we go into generating, the most important part of this bill for me will be how it's going to be implemented by national government and how issues of assessment, issues of reporting can be disclosed and also be reported in this floor of the House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support.
Leader Russell.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this bill. Honorable Speaker, I see this bill is a game changer and also is a landmark bill. For those of us who are in this House for now 3 terms, I think it is the time that we are thinking out of the box. I think for too long, we have depended on others to develop our country and to make decisions for us. Mobilizing resources locally, I think it takes away that mandate which Bretton Woods have given themselves back to the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, we talk about Ethiopia, Rwanda. But the reasons why those countries have been successful is because of focused, systematic mobilization, hands-on approach, and clear-minded leadership in delivering development for their countries. The dam that the Ethiopians built, and I'm happy our president attended that inauguration, it was a clear indicator that if a country must move forward, the leadership must take the front edge and must make the hard decision. From this floor, we are hearing even lawyers like Carolia Amondi saying that it is about the Constitution, that it violates Article this or that. We are lawmakers. If this bill is good for Kenya, then it is us to align it to the Constitution or to remove those clauses that violates the Constitution, or it does not sit within the PFM Act. Honorable Speaker, this country, in the name of democracy, we are doing a lot of injustice to ourselves. We want development, we want good socio-economic progress, but at the same time, we are the same people who are blocking what is good, what is happening. For me, the 4 important projects.
Hold on, Russell. Kiborek. What is your point of order?
It's not working.
Give him the mic. There's one next to you on the right.
I rise on standing order number 95 and call the mover to reply.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, commercially viable projects, water, energy, roads, and major projects like what we see like the Galanu Kulalu. If those projects are actually successful, then there's no problem of food insecurity in this country. Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, and even in the 3rd reading, I think those of us who are opposed to certain clauses, they can bring amendment, but we cannot kill this bill. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Angol.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for according me this chance to also contribute to this debate on National Infrastructure Fund. Mr. Speaker, I rise to raise some concerns on this bill. The concerns mainly are regional distribution of the investment of the fund. Mr. Speaker, I've noted with concern that part 1, which is preliminary, number 4, categorically states the kind of investment this fund is going to do, saying catalytic national infrastructure, including highways, roads, air, seaports, electricity, water reservoirs, irrigation, and agribusiness. Mr. Speaker, I note that my area or my region, northern Kenya, largely depends on livestock. It's not capture. Agribusiness means crop business. Water reservoir means damming of rivers. And there's only one river which passes in Garissa County. Wajir has no river. Mandera has a seasonal river. So I think that by design, this fund might lock that area, and I want that to be polished. I request the people who drafted this bill to include and make sure that Kenyans of northern region see themselves in this bill. And in that note, I also see that in part 2, which talks of the establishment of the board, in relation with what I raised before on distribution of the investments, the board consists of 9 members. I see to it that explicitly it doesn't talk of regional representation. I would have liked a point to be added there so that not 2 members of this board don't come from the same region, and there's regional representation from all the regions, so that we feel that my region or the area I come from is included, so that I don't say this is a sessional paper designed or to marginalize my area. Mr. Speaker, the reason as to why I'm raising that is because there are a lot of funds created by this House, not with me, but before I came to this office. Some of these funds are National Road Levy Maintenance Fund, created from Fuel Levy Fund. Mr. Speaker, this fund largely supports Kenha and Kura roads. In northern Kenya, there's only one A-class road. That means we are locked out from that fund. This House also created tourism promotion fund or tourist fund, 0 in that area. We have also been locked out. That money came from catering levy fund. We have been locked out. All the funds, talk of Hustler Fund, Youth Fund, Wezo Fund, they are not Sharia compliant. We are also locked out of this. So when we see a fund created in this House, it gives us goosebumps. Are we really included in these funds? And I don't see that, because that aspect of livestock is not captured in this part. That aspect of regional representation is not captured in this act. Also, by large, the person who is managing this fund, behind the curtains is the CS, because he's the one who's identifying the fund. The board is just sort of whatever. So that will give me, by inclusion of regional representation, that will give me a kind of a relief on that. The other thing is part 3 of this bill, talks of performance evaluation. It talks of the rewards given to positive performance. It doesn't talk of negative performance. If this board doesn't perform to the expectations of the Kenyan people, what are the reprimanders? What is the CS going to do? It just says incentives for them. So part 4 of reporting and disclosure, it largely talks of reporting of audited accounts and financials. It doesn't talk of report or publicizing or publishing of annual financial plans and investments. So that Kenyan can know before even the project takes off that this year they have a project in the investment plan or the strategies. It doesn't even talk of publishing of remuneration for boards. That should also become out. That is my contribution to this. So by and large, before I support this, I request explicitly for the drafters of this bill to make sure that the region I come from is captured and that they see themselves that they are worthy of a contribution to this fund. Thank you, sir.
Martin Owino.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Overall, the objective of this bill is intending to cure so many things that is going on in this country. Mr. Speaker, when we talk of roads, energy, water, I come from the lake region, which have the largest freshwater lake and can irrigate the whole area and feed all Kenyans. But our hands have been limited because there was no such an infrastructure funding to do that. So I think that will cure food security. Also, Mr. Speaker, we have DHA, which is District Health Authority, using now digital networks in order to register Kenyans and also be able to give health services to our country. There are so many remote areas in this country which have not been connected yet so that they can get these services. Mr. Speaker, this fund will absolutely cure that process if we have it. Mr. Speaker, debt has been mentioned here many times. This fund will reduce on public debt so that we can use what we have. Mr. Speaker, one thing which is very, very prominent here is this bill will ensure intergenerational equity. As we talk of infrastructure in this country, the people of Ndewa in my constituency have been paying a lot of money for infrastructure made in towns. But if you go to the ground, there is no road. But right now, if this goes through, then we are talking of equity now. And we will be able to also benefit as rural communities. The Speaker, lastly, as my point goes, consolidated fund, yes, this fund can go there. But I will look into it. If not properly guided, we can do some amendments so that it can leave to the management entity of this fund, but when withdrawal is to be done, that must be structured and be approved by Parliament. As other members have said, we don't want this fund to go the way other funds have gone. But does that not negate this bill? So I rise to support it, and I urge other members to support it. Where there are lacuna or wrong in the bill itself, we can make amendment. But this is a good bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let me take yes, Pukose. Let me listen to that first.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand under Standing Order 95. This bill we actually debated yesterday until very late at night. And I remember Honorable Undo and Honorable Makali wanted to contribute, and we said we can extend it to today, and they have made contributions. I can see that we are repeating. Some of us have been here since yesterday, and we now ask that the mover be called to reply, because we are starting to repeat ourselves, Honorable Speaker. We've really exhausted this bill. And some of those amendments we'll still make in the committee of the House. The Honorable Member carrying up hand has already even spoken to the bill, and we've been here.
Take your seat. What is it, Kagusha? I'm inclined to
Honorable
put it
Speaker,
to the House. Yes.
I was among the people who were here last night, up to very late in the night, with the Honorable Udo and Makali and Honorable Gogoyo. Honorable Speaker, I have not spoken to this bill, even though I was put in the Hansard as the first member to open the floor this afternoon by the Speaker who was there. So, Honorable Speaker, it would be unfair if then we would close the
Take your seat. Honorable members, the member for Njoro has been repeatedly asking me, hold, Charity, I have not given you the opportunity. Sit, take your seat. Take your seat. I will give to Kagusha. Put down your hands. I'll give to Kagusha and then Charity, and then put it to the House to decide whether you want the mover to be called upon to reply. Kagusha.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, it is in my considered opinion that this bill is so faulty that it cannot be amendable. Honorable Speaker, I actually propose that we withdraw the bill and redraw it in a way that would be constitutional. Honorable Speaker, why I say this is because I am not opposed to raising funds, not at all, and that is really not a problem. And I see most of the members, when they make their contribution, they are looking at the issue of how we are going to raise funds. That is really not a problem. Honorable Speaker, I'm not also opposed to development in various sectors in various regions in the country. But Honorable Speaker, my concern is that if we have to raise funds, first we have to raise these funds competitively. We have to, if we are going to engage in sale of assets in the country, this must be done with public participation and also competitively, must be subjected to the competitive market forces. And that is why one of the members suggested that it must be taken through the CMA. Honorable Speaker, the other issue which I consider very important is that what we are seeking to do here is to create another body that is going to raise funds. And of course, raise funds through sale of assets, raise funds through borrowing, and all those other means. And then after they have raised funds, they will also have control over how they use that fund, Honorable Speaker. And this will be done without the input of this National Assembly. Honorable members, I want you to consider this. As we talk here today, we oversight 3 trillion Kenya shillings that we have in our budget, or 3-point-something trillion Kenya shillings that we have of our budget. Now we are creating a body that is going to collect, that is going to decide, that is going to choose projects that are going to be implemented in this republic up to 5 trillion Kenya shillings without our input as a National Assembly, without our input as the representative of the people. Honorable Speaker, I think by doing this, we are neutralizing the National Assembly and we are doing away with the authority of this National Assembly. Honorable members, are you going to be present in the board meetings where the funds are going to be appropriated? That is why, Honorable Speaker, in my opinion, we have excessive executive control over a major fiscal instrument that we are creating here. Honorable Speaker, it is the executive that is going to appoint the this board is going to be appointed by the executive. This board is going to be reporting vertically to the executive. Honorable Speaker, the remuneration of the board and the staff of this board is going to be considered by the executive and not SRC, of course, which is unconstitutional. Honorable Speaker, this board is going to steer policy direction, and this board really is vested in the executive. This board has been given sweeping powers. And my question then is, if this fund will handle billions, borrow, as it is in the clause 5C of this bill, if it is going to prioritize projects, if it is going to structure infrastructure financing, if this board indeed is going to do all these things, why is the cabinet secretary sitting at the center of every control lever, Honorable Speaker? That's not oversight. That's consolidation. And Honorable Speaker, we must know that consolidation always precedes abuse and misuse. Honorable Speaker, this bill is now going to create a parallel borrowing channel. If you look at it, the Office of the Auditor General had already raised reservations to this bill. They publicly warned that the bill contains oversight and legal gaps, especially on the uncheckered borrowing. Honorable Speaker, my question is, or my input is, we cannot create a financial engine powerful enough to shape national development, yet weak enough in accountability to escape Parliament. Honorable Speaker, I dare say, if this bill goes through and you vest this 5 trillion control in this board, then, honorable members, your usefulness, your oversight, and your power and authority as a house is going to be diminished. And I'm not opposed to us collecting money or getting funds to do projects. Let us get it, but let us do it the right way. This bill is so faulty, Honorable Speaker, that it cannot be amended because it goes against every tenet of the Constitution of this republic. And the people who drafted our Constitution in this republic, they came up with all the controls. And if you look at our values,
is up. Kalambi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this chance to do my contribution in relation with the National Infrastructure Bill Fund. Mr. Speaker, sir, my first convincing factor, it is the purpose of the bill, which has been set very clear. And Mr. Speaker, sir, when I was going through the purpose of the fund, and talks about accelerating the development in this country in relation with national highways, railways, air, seaport, electricity generations, transmissions, distributions, irrigations, and issues of water. For me, that itself, Speaker, makes me convinced this is the right thing to be done. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I stand here today, I'm a member of Parliament, Joro constituency, Nakuru County. Nakuru County, we have the biggest dam called Itare Dam. It is stored for very many years. Why is it stored, Mr. Speaker, sir? It is because the Ministry of Water actually don't have budget, don't have money for this Itare Dam. Therefore, the Itare Dam is one of the hope which Nakuru County and the surrounding countries were to benefit from. But as I stand here today, it has totally been stuck. Also, as I stand here, Mr. Speaker, sir, where I come from, I have so many roads which I wished we could have such a fund, then my people could not be in problem. As I stand here today, I have one of the mega road, Elementaita Mount Narok Road. It is stuck, Mr. Speaker, sir. And actually, I get worried when I see anything new, anything good for Kenyans coming up. I really feel furious when I see some members actually fighting such good ideas. But for us, we stand for it and we support it. And what is another reason which convinces me that it must be supported? It is because, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the whole country, all Kenyans, even after the COVID, most businesses were really affected. If we can have a fund where we can make sure that there's no more taxation burdening Kenyans, then for us, that would be a success story and that would be supporting. And Mr. Speaker, sir, most of the projects which are really stored in this country, not because of anything else, it is because we have insufficient funds. And therefore, I'm standing here to support it because I know even Joro constituency where we have Joro airstrip, we were supposed to have even like an airport. I expect in the future with this fund, and Nakuru County being like a center of the whole region, part of country, I think, and also being the center of also for many agriculture and agribusinesses on flower farms. And most of the times they really go a lot of challenges because of transport. Therefore, for me, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have a right to support this bill and as quickly as possible. My comments would also be only on the matters of the board of directors. Sometimes when there is appointment of board of directors in this country, we sometimes find some special groups forgotten. Therefore, when it reaches to that time and when the bill is successful, we would be requesting in the future that special considerations of people living with disability and the women also must be considered. And Mr. Speaker, sir, why I sincerely also support this bill, it is when I was going through what the board of directors must be doing, I realized they would be having an investment policy which should be giving them a platform to come up with the priorities of the project and also the plans of the development for the whole country. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, with the burdens which Kenyans have undergone when it comes to the matters of increasing the taxes, I think this will be making Kenyans at least feel better. Therefore, this is a good bill, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think it is going to make our country more better. It is really going to ensure most and every part of this country is actually considered. I think also it is going to be part of, with a lot.
Time is up. Honorable Kamene, take your seat. Honorable members, I'll go back to the issue raised by Honorable Pukose and put it to the House that the mover be called upon to reply. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me begin first by thanking all the many members who have contributed, and special thanks to those the many who have supported this bill without any reservations, and the 5 members who have opposed this bill, because only 5 members have opposed this bill since we began its debate yesterday afternoon. Honorable Speaker, listening to the contributions through from yesterday and even taking into consideration the issues that have been raised by many of the members, there are few salient issues that have come out. One, there is a claim that there is weak oversight in this bill. And that is not only incorrect, but very misleading. Because if you read Article 206, and I want to thank my whip, because when I went to have a cup of tea, my whip did respond to Honorable Karoli Omondi on what he had raised on the constitutionality of this bill. And Honorable Speaker, it's important to mention that if any member feels any legislative proposal before this House is unconstitutional, you have every right to raise that in line with our standing orders with the Speaker at any point. And so far, Honorable Speaker, I am not aware, and I am sure had anyone brought it to your attention that there was anything unconstitutional in this bill, they would have raised it with you. And therefore, there is absolutely nothing unconstitutional with this bill. It is anchored on Article 206 of the Constitution. I agree with my whip that what Honorable Karoli Omondi was reading was very selective, because he did not read the one that created the exception to the consolidated fund. Honorable Speaker, if he had read 206(1)(a), it says, except money that is reasonably excluded from the fund by an act of parliament. This bill is creating such act of parliament, the National Infrastructure Fund Act. It is only a bill now, pending its approval by ourselves, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, besides Article 206, Article 2294B of the Constitution grants the Auditor General the mandate to audit the accounts of all public funds, all of them. When the Auditor General audits all public funds, including the National Infrastructure Fund, should it be established upon passage of this bill, that fund shall, not may, shall be audited by the Auditor General. What does the Auditor General do with these reports? He brings those reports to the National Assembly. Therefore, your effective role of oversight is guaranteed under the Constitution and under Article 2294B through the Office of the Auditor General, unless we want now to become the Montesians or the auditors ourselves, and we cannot be. Our work is to audit. That is why even our audit and oversight committees, the work they do is based on reports from the Auditor General. And we cannot, Honorable Speaker, be taking over the work of other institutions. Honorable Speaker, again, this bill has a very strong oversight mechanism. Read clause 26 of the bill. The Cabinet Secretary must submit all annual reports and audited financial statements to the National Assembly. The National Assembly is you guys, you honorable members, sorry. You honorable members who are seated here and who are debating and enacting this law.
It's good you have corrected yourself. There are no guys here.
I was very quick, Honorable Speaker. This is a problem of dealing with teenage children in your house. Even my 3-year-old daughter, my 6-year-old daughter now is calling me bro. Clause 27, Honorable Speaker, also obligates the same Cabinet Secretary to publish these accounts. If you read 27.2, even publish them on the website, and 36.1 to submit to the Auditor General the accounts of the fund, together with statements of income and expenditure for every financial year. And thereafter, as I said, in line with that, the provisions of our Constitution, it is you in the National Assembly, not even in the other house, here in the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, the other misconception that I have had is that this is another ingenious way of borrowing. Far from the truth, Honorable Speaker. And I had time to explain to Honorable Ondo after his contribution, because I like listening to Honorable Ondo, Honorable Makali, because they base their arguments on what they have read, unlike some of us who have not read the bill and just oppose for the sake of opposing. And I explained to Honorable Ondo that this, unlike what was being said by another member who speaks too much in workshops and conferences and press conferences opposing everything government, the fund is an investment vehicle. And in fact, Honorable Ondo put it right, that this fund is looking at commercially viable projects, commercially viable projects, and I was asking Honorable Oundo, the most clear example to all of us here is the expressway that just passes behind this house. That expressway, I would dare any one of you to show me where that expressway is in our debt books. Any one of you, because it is not there. And what happens is that the private equity holders, the people who have their own capital, who would come and invest in a project like the expressway, also do not have the 40 billion shillings they invested in that expressway. They leverage on the small capital, maybe 5 or 10 billion shillings they had, went to the financial and capital markets, raised money, invested in that project, and that project is paying for itself. Is paying for itself. That is why it is not in your debt books or in our nation's debt books. That is exactly what we intend to do with the National Infrastructure Fund. If you raise the 100 billion shillings that you raise from, or 100 and something from the Kenya Pipeline IPO, which will officially go to the market on Monday. And I hope, Honorable Speaker, that these members will support this bill, so that by Monday we have a fund, so that the people who are holding that money can put that money in this fund, so that we buttress what has been said and what the President said here during the State of the Nation address, that proceeds of privatization will be ring-fenced to go into this fund that will grow our economy in the manner that I explained yesterday, and I don't want to go back to it. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I was saying the 100 billion would raise, if we got at least 25 billion shillings out of that 100 billion of Kenya Pipeline, and a private investor or owner of capital, private capital, came with their 25 billion shillings, that combined gives us 50 billion shillings, and the government of Kenya and the other private person will have equity, shared 50-50% in the project to build the new airport at JKIA, and the project will then leverage on that capital that we own as the people of Kenya and the private investor. The private investor most likely will be somebody who has the capacity and the expertise to be able to raise money in the global and regional markets, raise money from pension funds and all other funds anywhere in the world, raise 150 billion shillings, and we have a new airport, Honorable Speaker. And I'm glad I saw yesterday the government of Kenya did advertise the construction of a new airport at JKIA. The secret or the route to getting that new airport is the passage of this National Infrastructure Fund. Honorable Speaker, I am glad that even our colleagues who have opposed this bill, they had very heavy words. Oh, it is unconstitutional, but nobody has exhibited how unconstitutional it is. Somebody said we should shred it, and because it is unamendable. That is why the people in your constituencies elected you, to come and legislate. Legislation is actually not the debate we are doing now. Legislation is in committee of the whole house. If you have any credible ideas that will add value to this bill, we welcome you to file your amendments as soon as now with the office of the clerk or the table office, so that you may add value. If there's anything you feel we should subtract, and I listened to Honorable Makali Mulu, I listened to Honorable Oundo, and I heard what they said on issues like the board being able to set salaries for the staff and the chair, the board. And in fact, Honorable Speaker, if you carefully read what is in the bill, it says may. The bill, the language is may, that the cabinet secretary may determine a performance incentive for the board. May, not shall. Again, language in legislative drafting is very important. That doesn't mean that you are excluding SRC from playing their constitutional mandate in terms of public officers in service. But again, it's a matter that is open to debate, and we will welcome any amendments that may improve the language in that bill. Honorable Speaker, yesterday somebody said that the other funds we mentioned here, the Temasek in Singapore, the fund in Dubai, or even that in South Africa, or the one in Australia, that these are companies, investment companies. Yes, they are. This fund is an investment vehicle for our nation to invest in commercially viable projects or enterprises. And therefore, what I have heard, Honorable Speaker, during the debate, many people assuming that this fund will come and develop my 2 kilometers of roads. Far from it. It will go into those projects that are commercially viable, projects that can repay themselves. Then those that cannot repay themselves, like the roads Honorable Kagushi was speaking about in Mukurweini, the roads in Kikuyu, the roads in Kajiado North or Kajiado West or anywhere, any other part of the country, those now we budget for them in our budgets. And there's nothing that is coming into this fund that excludes you in your mandate from budgeting. Because again, that is the other misconception. I had somebody, I think it's Honorable Karoli Omondi, last night, who was challenging a member that you now have to be going to kneel before somebody to be able to get anything from this fund. Unless you have a commercially viable project, you don't need to kneel before anybody. Honorable Speaker, the oversight mechanisms in this bill are solid, and it is not in any way coming to dilute in any way our mandate as a House, and I therefore want to urge members to contribute. Honorable Makali did mention the issue of a CEO and administrator. I agree with him. And indeed, the Committee on Finance and National Planning, if you have, again have read their report, and I said yesterday it is important that as we debate, we also just glance through the committee's reports, because that is where we charge committees with the responsibility to go out and listen to members of the public through public participation. And I must thank the committee because they did extensive public participation around the country on this particular bill. And some of the feedback they got was on that issue of the administrator and CEO. And you will see part of the amendments in the report that the committee has proposed is to have either a CEO or an administrator, not both or either, to just have one. And I think the committee, the chair will be moving some of those amendments. Honorable Speaker, I think I have responded largely to many of the things that I saw, I had being raised by members, and any other issues that I may not have addressed, I'm certain in the committee of the whole and in the third reading we'll be able to address some of those concerns. And I want to really urge this House to support this bill. I am glad, Honorable Speaker, that even those who purported or opposed this bill, in fact, they have all stated that they do not oppose the idea of having a national infrastructure fund, because this is the future. The Honorable Speaker, if you read the intent or the objectives of the bill, I'm concluding, Honorable Speaker,
Yes, Kagushi, I want to
4D,
Majority Leader. Yes, Kagushi.
Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Majority Leader has continuously castigated members who are giving their opinion and contributing to debate. Now you have heard him say that they are purporting to oppose. Honorable Speaker, members are not purporting to oppose. Members are opposing with the reasons that they have given. And Honorable Majority Leader should respect the opinion.
Order. That's a question of semantics. I don't think it goes to the substance of debate.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. There is nothing worth responding to there at all. Honorable Speaker was saying that the purpose of this fund, you just need to read the bill, clause 4. And particularly because I've had many members again speak on the question of debt. If you read clause 4C, it says that the purpose of the fund is, 1, or part C, to reduce the reliance of public debt for the financing of commercially viable infrastructure.
Wind up, your time is up.
That is the whole intent of the bill, that we'll be able to lift off those commercially viable infrastructure projects out of our budget and finance them through this initiative, Honorable Speaker. I therefore urge members to support and beg to reply. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Ross Museo, hold on. I want to put the question so that you can come in and take your seat. Honorable Salasia, take the nearest seat. Thank you, honorable members. I'll now put the question at order number 12, which is the National Infrastructure Fund Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2026. Be now read the second time. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. On the same, we have finished the matter. Pardon? She has not even read the second time.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide the establishment and management of the National Infrastructure Fund and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
What is it, Oundo?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In view of the great importance of the bill under consideration, I just want to ask the majority leader to indulge members, considering that we have spent the whole morning in the requirements of our colleague. A number of our colleagues could be traveling tomorrow in preparation for burial on Friday. Will it be fair? I would just ask if you could indulge that the committee of the whole House be held on Tuesday next week to give members adequate time to prepare and submit proposed amendments. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now, he has heard you. Go back to order number 5 and invite the chair budget to lay some paper on the table. Atandi?
Yes.
Give him the mic.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper.
Can you give him the mic
Yes.
without...
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, 4th March 2026. Report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on its consideration of the budget policy statement for the financial year 2026-2027 and the medium term, together with a compendium of departmental committee reports of the BPS. Thank you.
At order number 6, Atandi.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the budget policy statement for the financial year 2026-2027 and a compendium of departmental committee reports on the 2026 BPS, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 4th March 2026, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 25, Section 7 of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 412A, and Standing Order 232, Sub 9 and 10. A, approves the budget policy statement for the financial year 2026-2027. B, approves the sailings for the financial year 2026-2027 budget as contained in the first schedule to the report. And lastly, C, makes the policy and financial resolutions contained in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to order 13.
Order number 13, the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2025, second reading.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me first to take this opportunity to thank members of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee under the able leadership of Honorable GK, who, again, like the finance counterparts, took a lot of time to...
Just hold on, Majority Leader, take your seat. There's a school in the public gallery. Let's acknowledge their presence. El Bagon DB Secondary School from Molo, Nakuru. I hope they're still in the gallery. If they still are, on my behalf and on behalf of the House, I welcome them to the House of Parliament. Thank you. Proceed now.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You actually gave me an opportunity to find my order paper. And I beg to move, Honorable Speaker, that the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2025, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, I was saying, allow me to take this opportunity to also thank members of the Transport Committee under the able leadership of Honorable GK, who, just like our colleagues in the Finance and National Planning Committee, took a lot of time to take this bill through all the stages of public participation and listened to many stakeholders, those who have interest in the railway development, those who are affected by rail transportation in one way or the other, and also ordinary Kenyans that they listened to and stakeholders in the industry. Honorable Speaker, this bill proposes to amend the miscellaneous fees and levies Cap 469 of our laws to strengthen the financial and institutional framework underpinning the railway development levy. As you honorable members will know that currently the railway development levy is established through regulations that were brought by the Cabinet Secretary sometime in the 11th Parliament. This is in the 11th Parliament when it was established. And the amendments in this bill now seek to establish the Railway Development Levy Fund through an Act of Parliament, should this bill come into being. Additionally, Honorable Speaker and Honorable members, the proposed amendments to, in this bill seek to expand the use of the Railway Development Levy Fund, or what we popularly refer to as RDLF, to include development, construction, upgrading, rehabilitation, and management of railway infrastructure and railway-related transport infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, the regulations that came from the Cabinet Secretary initially at the inception of this levy was for the development of the SGR, or the standard gauge railway, that levy was to be used for the development of the standard gauge railway. And what we are seeking to do now is to expand that mandate through an Act of Parliament so that the fund or the levy, as it may be, is not restricted to just development and maintenance of the SGR, the standard gauge railway, but now to expand it to even take care of other related railway infrastructure and also the metric gauge railway, and also in the development of rail transportation in this country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as we move towards a first world nation, we cannot continue doing ordinary things. We cannot continue transporting our people in ramshackles of public transportation in one or the other, or in very unsafe means. We are moving towards a situation where passengers between Gong Town and the CBD, or between Kitengela or Isinya to CBD, or those coming from Thika or from Limuru or from Machakos, can use a tram rail that you can alight from your, the new Jomo Kenyatta Airport, from your flight overseas. And to go to Kitengela, you just take a tram from the airport and you find yourself in Kitengela within a few minutes, or to Gong or to Kikuyu in that matter, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, the levy, the regulation that established this Railway Development Fund had restricted its use to only the development and maintenance of the SGR. And therefore, you could not use it to develop the metric gauge rail. You could not use this fund to develop a tram, for instance, such a passenger tram around the city. And because we are looking into moving into the first world nation, or towards Singapore, as it has been christened, we very soon will have trams in this city. We have trams in many of our urban centers around the city and other cities in the country, towns around the country. And we can only do that if we have secure funds to be able to develop such infrastructure. And therefore, if we continue limiting this levy, and this levy, Honorable Speaker, I think when it started, I can't remember well, but I think we started at 0.5%, and is now almost, I think, 1.7 or 1.5 from the last finance bill. And that fund, the way it has grown, it is now adequate to be able to maintain and construct SGR, but also to help us to develop other rail infrastructure and rail-related transport infrastructure, including stations, Honorable Speaker, and exchange stations in our towns. And you know, many of our towns, including my own town in Kikuyu, grew out of a railway station. In fact, when I was growing up, Honorable Speaker, my town in Kikuyu used to be called Shesheni. And Shesheni was a corruption of station, the railway station town. And therefore, we will be able to develop more modern railway stations, tram stations, SGR stations, metric gauge stations, and even cargo transportation inland depots along the railway line, either SGR or the metric gauge. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, again, what we intend to do with these amendments is to expand, as I said, from maintenance and construction of SGR to development, construction, upgrading, because there are some areas where the metric gauge railway needs to be upgraded, rehabilitation. There are areas, again, we need to rehabilitate the old railway, and management of the railway infrastructure and railway-related transport infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, the other intent of the bill is to create, since you are now converting it under an act of parliament into a fund, we will need a board to manage the fund. And again, the bill in a big way speaks to how that fund, the board, will be established, and I don't need to go into that, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I said, for context, the Railway Development Levy was initially at 1.5%, not 0.5%, as I indicated, of the customs value of imported goods. And subsequently, through subsequent finance bills, we have revised that to now 2%, which we did in the 2024 tax amendment laws of 2024, and is now expressly provided for in Section 8.2 of the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act at 2%. And therefore, from that 1.5% initially to 2%, that's why I'm saying we can now expand the mandate of this levy to be able to take care of other infrastructure needs. Honorable Speaker, we constructed SGR Phase 1 from Mombasa to Nairobi. And in the subsequent years, post-2017, we did the Nairobi to what has been christened the railway to nowhere. The railway SGR went and terminated somewhere after Suswa, around Dukamoja, in a bush somewhere. We cannot afford to continue having that railway terminating somewhere in a bush and it being christened the railway to nowhere. That railway must end up somewhere. That railway must get to Kisumu, must get to Eldoret. That railway must be the railway that will transport our oil from Turkana to Mombasa. That rail must be able to transport our tea from the highlands of Bomet and Kericho to the auction in Mombasa. That railway must be able to effectively and efficiently be able to transport raw materials from our hinterland to our industries in Nairobi, in Mombasa, and other major urban centers. That is why, Honorable Speaker, we need this bill, like yesterday. And Honorable Speaker, that rail cannot be constructed using loans again. It is not going to be feasible. Remember, initially, we had designated this levy to repayment of that loan for SGR. That, over the years, substantially has been reduced, and we now must look beyond having a levy that just serves the purpose of repayment of a loan. We must be able to leverage on these funds to be able to grow that infrastructure in the rail transportation area, to be able to finish our SGR to Malaba, to Kisumu, all the way to Uganda, our border to Uganda at Malaba, take it another line to Kericho, Eldoret, go all the way to Turkana, linking up to Isiolo and back to Nairobi and to Mombasa, Honorable Speaker. Because that is the only way we'll be able to effectively evacuate the crude oil that will be drilled, courtesy of the approval you did for the Lokicha wells last week. And I can see the members from Turkana nodding in agreement, because they know that if Kikuyu, if Nakuru, if Limuru, if Thika, if Kericho, if Eldoret became the towns and the cities they are today because they grew out of along the railway line, then Nedapar, Lokichogio, Lokichar, Lodwa must also get to the same level with other towns and cities in this country. And we cannot do that without interconnecting our towns, our cities, our villages. And this is what will help us to cure that systemic marginalization that has been there in this country. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge all of us to support this bill. Honorable Speaker, since this levy, we are importing goods every now and then. This fund continues to grow and the levy continues to grow. And therefore, we have a good opportunity to be able to leverage on this levy to even be able to raise more money globally, to be able to do those huge infrastructure projects that we need to be able to move our country to the next level. Honorable Speaker, I may sound like I'll be repeating myself because I know many members have read the bill, have gone through the bill and the report that Honorable GK tabled earlier this week, and amendments that have been proposed by the Committee of Transport and Infrastructure. We shall be able to consider them at that point. And also any that may come from the issues that members contribute during this debate. Honorable Speaker, is important also because when you create these funds, at times, and I had that concern yesterday as we contributed on the National Infrastructure Fund bill, people may think administrative expenses is an opportunity now to go out and spend whatever you want to spend. We are very careful that in all these levies we restrict and embed in this legislation a safeguard of capping the expenditure levels beyond which you can't go. And this bill embeds that strong safeguard to protect the fund from depletion through administrative expenses, which have been capped at 0.5% of the total fund to ensure that the funds are not consumed in the usual office bureaucracies to buy tea, flowers, a lot of expensive carpets, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that this fund, the levy that is collected from our imports, goes towards the development of rail infrastructure, Honorable Speaker. I look forward, Honorable Speaker, to the transformation of this country, which I have no doubt now. And I must thank members of this House. As the President said during his State of the Nation address last year, this 13th Parliament has a whole chapter in the rewriting of the history of the transformation of our country. Because why not for the fortitude of the members of this 13th Parliament to withstand the hate-mongering, the negativity that had been embedded in our society over the last 2-3 years, we would not be where we are as a country. This economy has been resilient because of your sacrifice, because of your focus on doing what is good for the country. That even at times when we differ, and that's what I was saying even in the previous debate about Honorable Oundo and Honorable Makali Mulu, we differ at times in principle, and we debate and agree to disagree, and at times we agree to agree. And that is how we should conduct business in this House. Therefore, for those of us who look at every other legislative proposal coming from the government, in government bills, as an opportunity to oppose and fight for the sake of opposing, I think you're in the wrong place. But it's not in my place to tell you in the wrong place. Your constituents at the right time will send you back where you belong if you do not act in the best interest of the people who sent you here to legislate, oversight, and represent them. Part of that representation is to ensure that you legislate progressive legislative proposals that will improve the lives of the people that have sent you here. This is such one proposal, just like the National Infrastructure Fund is one such proposal that will speak to the hearts of millions of our people, millions of our young people who today are languishing in poverty because they have no job opportunities, because our economy is so constricted, because we have done the same things over and over again and expecting different results. And indeed, I had one member, the member I was referring to, who is fond of speaking in lecture halls to try and look intelligent. Well, at the end of it all, when you listen, there's a lot of hollowness in what they are saying that the things that you want to do with this National Infrastructure Fund have been done since time immemorial. And I ask myself, honestly, if you are as educated as you want Kenyans to believe, you should be honest enough to tell them that what has been done since time immemorial is what has not worked in this country. That is why the northern parts of Kenya are the way they are. That is why parts of Narok North, farmers who are working diligently day and night to grow maize
for this country to feed the country, wheat, cannot transport their produce to the nearest market in Narok town because of the state of roads. But because we depended on only budgetary allocations to be able to grow our infrastructure and develop our infrastructure, that is why our country is where it is. And indeed, I've severally agreed with His Excellency the President when he says that the biggest problem in this country is leadership. That is what has hindered the growth of this nation, leadership. I want to challenge us as members of the 13th Parliament. We have exhibited leadership in supporting progressive ideas like the National Housing Levy Fund. That in a big way is transforming every corner of our republic. This afternoon, you have just passed in second reading the National Infrastructure Fund. That you will bear me witness in the next few years. It will be a critical tool, investment tool, in the transformation of our republic. When you go into elections next year, we will be talking of new SGRs, courtesy of such a bill as this Railway Development Fund bill, new airports, courtesy of the National Infrastructure Fund bill, and many other developments, including the dams that I had members from the northern parts of Kenya and even the coast. I had Honorable Harrison Kombe speak to about how productive certain parts of Magarini are. But they cannot grow food because they don't have water. Yet they could have harvested that water. Or Galana Kulalu alone could feed the whole of Kilifi County. In fact, not Kilifi. Galana Kulalu can feed half of our country today. All we need is water. And you know, Honorable Speaker, when last year the President said that something about rain and water, people are making fun of it, saying, oh, now Ruto has told us we don't need rain, we need water. And it is true. What you need rain for is to provide you with water. And if you can have reservoirs for water to irrigate our farmland, we can feed this country and avoid the shame of Kenyans having to live without food or the indignity of having to feed our people from relief food. Honorable Speaker, let me not belabor those many points. And I beg to move and urge all of us to support this very progressive piece of legislation. And your place in history, and indeed in heaven, is secure when you pass this bill. Because you are doing God's work by improving the lives of the people of Kenya. They have charged you with that singular responsibility, you amongst many other in your constituency, to come here and legislate to improve their lives. Don't politic with it. Don't just oppose for the sake of opposing. Legislate for the future of our country, for our children and generations to come. I beg to move and request Honorable GK, the chair of the committee, that consider this bill to second.
Thank you, Honorable Majority Leader. Honorable Speaker, I beg to second this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure on the consideration of the miscellaneous fees and levies amendment bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2025, which I laid on the table of the House on Tuesday this week. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to National Assembly Standing Orders number 2161C, the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure is mandated, among others, to study and review all registration referred to it. And Honorable Speaker, this bill expands the purpose of the levy from construction and operation of the SGR network to cover broader railway transport infrastructure needs, including financing and development and construction of railway transport infrastructure, safety and economic regulation of railway infrastructure, and upon approval, rehabilitation of railway transport infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, the expanded purpose of the levy supports the government's objective of mobilizing large-scale, long-term capital for priority railway transport infrastructure by enabling and innovative financing approach anchored on the railway development levy. Honorable Speaker, this bill provides that a proportion of the fund not exceeding 90% may be applied to secure additional funding for the railway transport infrastructure. The bill also caps the administrative cost of the fund at 0.5%, ensuring that the fund remains primarily dedicated to infrastructure outcomes and financing obligations rather than overheads. And the Honorable Majority Leader emphasized this point in details. Honorable Speaker, this bill establishes the Railway Development Levy Fund in the Act and provides that the proceeds of the levy shall be paid into that fund. Further, the bill creates the Railway Development Levy Fund Board capable of holding assets, entering contracts, and performing functions necessary for management of the fund. Honorable Speaker, the bill also sets the board composition, including representation from the principal secretaries responsible for railway transport and finance, the Attorney General, and independent members with expertise in infrastructure finance, law, investment, and PPPs. Honorable Speaker, the railway infrastructure is a critical enabler of socio-economic development, stimulating economic growth in the country by increasing efficiency and lowering the cost of transporting cargo between major ports on the Indian Ocean coast and hinterland. Railway infrastructure is a cornerstone of Kenya's integrated national transport policy, guiding multimodal integration for efficiency movement of goods and people. Honorable Speaker, having considered the submissions and analyzed documents presented during the public participation, the committee recommends that the House adopts the report on the consideration of the miscellaneous fees and levies amendment bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2025. Honorable Speaker, I beg and urge the House to adopt this report. I second. Thank you.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that the miscellaneous fees and levies amendment bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2025, be read a second time. Members who want to be part of this debate, kindly press the intervention button. Honorable Timothy Toroitich, member for Marakwet.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving an opportunity to contribute on this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the letter, the intent, and the spirit of the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Amendment Bill 2025. Honorable Speaker, sitting here this afternoon and listening to the just concluded the National Infrastructure Fund, and this evening on the creation of the Railway Development Levy Fund, Honorable Speaker, I have no doubt that we are in the right trajectory of going to Singapore as a country. Honorable Speaker, this is extremely fundamental for the reason that, Honorable Speaker, for the first time as a country, we are adopting innovative financing approaches towards development in this country. Honorable Speaker, more often than not, we've been depending on borrowing to finance our local development projects. But Honorable Speaker, looking at the substance of this bill, I have no doubt that we have found a model of financing our development project as a country, which at the end of it all will make us self-sufficient in terms of money for development in this country. Honorable Speaker, this country, we need to industrialize. We need to grow in terms of our GDP. Honorable Speaker, we need to employ our people. Honorable Speaker, doing the same thing each and every other time and expecting different results, Honorable Speaker, Albert Einstein said it amounts to insanity. Honorable Speaker, we have to do things differently so that we develop our country. Honorable Speaker, looking at clause 4E of the bill, it says, Honorable Speaker, that for purposes of this, that a proportion of the Railway Development Levy Fund, not exceeding 90% of the fund, may be used to secure additional funds for purposes of financial development and construction of railway transport infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, meaning that out of this fund, we can still use this fund as a security to be able to borrow additional money so that we can be able to finance our transport infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, looking at the history of this country has developed along the railway line. Since 1900, when the railway line was initiated in Mombasa, if you look all the way from Mombasa to Nairobi, to Eldoret, to Kitale, to anywhere where a railway line has passed, Honorable Speaker, there is development alongside that railway line. Honorable Speaker, if you look, for example, at our SGR, especially from Nairobi to Mombasa, the sections or the sections along that road have developed. Honorable Speaker, I have no doubt that even if we have a metro in Nairobi using this fund, borrowing from this fund, then, Honorable Speaker, it will reflect development within the country. Honorable Speaker, I'm also impressed under clause 4E. It provides very clearly that the administrative costs of the fund shall not exceed 0.5% of the fund. Honorable Speaker, meaning we have capped administrative expenses or costs of this particular fund. So, Honorable Speaker, so that we avoid the issue of squandering resources within this the usage of this particular fund. Honorable Speaker, these are catalytic and viable projects towards injecting development in this country. Honorable Speaker, these are the kind of projects we need to do. We need to industrialize as a country. Honorable Speaker, currently as we speak, in terms of electricity generation, we have 3,000 megawatts. For this country to develop, we need over 20,000 megawatts so that we can be able to industrialize as a country. So, Honorable Speaker, I believe that this fund will be able to catalyze development, especially in the transport sector. Honorable Speaker, recently, we have discovered oil in Turkana. What mode of transport shall we use to transport that crude oil from Turkana to Mombasa? The best mode of transport, Honorable Speaker, because we also need to take care of our roads. If we say that we use the roads to transport, we shall also be putting a lot of pressure on our roads. Honorable Speaker, it is important that we have this fund in place so that we can be able to, we also, the infrastructure that is in place will be intact. Honorable Speaker, as I finalize, on the issue of oversight mechanisms, we have Article 95 of our Constitution. I have listened to my colleagues here, especially on the infrastructure fund. And on this fund, I am sure someone will raise the issue of oversight. This law says that this fund shall vest in a board. Honorable Speaker, that is something that we must be able to look at it critically so that even if it vests in a board, but in future, we are not sure if we'll get a president like William Ruto who ensures that everything is done in accordance with the law. Honorable Speaker, in future, if we have a dictator and we have funds that are managed and vested in a board and not oversighted or the procurement is done by the House, Honorable Speaker, it will be a challenge. So, Honorable Speaker, in future, I know we have a good president, but in future, if you have a dictator who cannot be able to appreciate the substance of the law and does not abide by the law, then, Honorable Speaker, we shall have challenges. Honorable Speaker, I support the Railway Development Levy. This is an innovative financing approach. Honorable Speaker, I have no doubt that this country is headed to Singapore in terms of development. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Dagoretti North, Honourable Beatrice Lach.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support, knowing very well that I come from Nairobi, Madam Speaker, where transport is the most difficult thing in Nairobi, where, Madam Speaker, as I stand to support the miscellaneous fees and levies amendment for railway, I first look at the capital city of Nairobi and I realize if we do not look and really support these two bills that we have seen this afternoon, Madam Speaker, and especially look at the city and try and ask ourselves whether going forward we need to have light trains so that the city can transform itself and use our time more better than the times we use when you look at the traffic. You realize how just this expressway has been a game changer for anyone who wakes up and says he's going to the airport. But you see, it's just for those who are going to the airport mostly, and maybe when you're cruising to go to Mombasa on the other side. But what about for us within? And Madam Speaker, you'll agree with me that within, we need at least to have a transport system that first is very effective, but also cost-effective, Madam Speaker. And I know if we bring in the light trains within the city, the trams that we are talking about, we'll find ourselves with a better city and a city that is, it will decongest itself, and we will find ourselves doing a lot of things, Madam Speaker, and saving a lot. Madam Speaker, when I look at the bill, and I want to say this, Madam Speaker, when you look at both bills, the one that we were talking about, the infrastructure fund, because all these are investments that we are trying to say, how do you bring in a fund that now expands your country to a better country? Look at how we've just gone into a war, and look at how the UAE is now suffering. But I can tell you, from China to Russia, they have a railway line. So you might find guys just using that railway line, going to Moscow or doing other things. And that's why when we talk about the railway line and the SGR especially, we want to see it go to Kisumu. We want to see it go to Malaba. We want to, we always ask ourselves, why is it in a country? And Madam Speaker, it's a challenge, and we need to give the president at least to appreciate that once in a while he's very bold to just stand and think of something and be very forceful to make it work. Because let me tell you, when you ask yourself, so we did the SGR and took it to Naivasha, then does it benefit the country? No. Does it benefit wananchi who are going those sides? No. Why does it have to pass and you just see it even passing through Rongai? Yet when you are going to Rongai, you find yourself in a crisis of transport every day. Nobody has a question, an answer for it. So these are some of the things we say. Let us use our resources prudently. So when we are talking of this levy, I am hoping it's going to unlock Kenya Railways now to ask itself a question. How do we expand and get out of where we've stopped within, when you look at where the railway line is, as the majority leader said, even me, I always pass there and ask myself, what was the purpose? And in that railway line, 5 kilometers to 10 kilometers, we have old women from Kawangware, which their land was used. They have never been paid, but even the railway itself is not using the same land. So you find it very, very unfortunate for our country. So even as I support this, Madam Speaker, I want to ask Kenya Railway, look back within all the people who were under the SGR, especially the SGR that comes from Nairobi going to Naivasha. There are many people who have gone to court, they are crying, and if this levy can help them to unlock all these payments that they needed to have done, I think that would be a better thing. But having said that also, Madam Speaker, when I look at the fund, which now proposes a board that shall consist of a chairperson appointed by the president, the principal secretary, the attorney general. One of the things also we need to ask ourselves, I know in all, both funds, we will establish also a team. But I want to tell the team, for example, today we have the roads that are being done. And we are having a lot of challenges where the agencies, you find Kenya Power coming in telling you, you have now dropped this, they'll have to pick you, the contractor gets out of sight, and all these things. So as we establish this, is there a way we can also ensure within those clauses, we have to bring in these agencies so that when something is being done, it is clearly, there will not be bottlenecks where you have one of the agencies, which are government agencies, coming in to say, you need to pay us because now you are taking part of the road where we had put our lines and all that. And this is not just Kenya Power that I'm talking to. You realize even when we are putting internet, we need to think through and ask ourselves, how do we ensure the poles of Kenya Power can also be used to put all those wires of internet, instead of every time you will find a guy of Kenya Power now taking over and telling the guys who are putting internet, which is supposed to serve everyone. So as we do this, let us include every stakeholder that we know can come after a project has started and says, now this project is starting, we are about to, let's have all of them on the table, Madam Speaker. As I finalize, Madam Speaker, I just want to tell ourselves that it is this boldness that will make us be counted. And you realize Ngeno was bold enough to give us housing. So let us be bold enough to ensure the roads going to Murwadikir, the railway line that is supposed to pass through Narok, is passed through for the sake of remembering the boldness of the many people and many Kenyans who would wish to see their country grow. With that, I beg to support.
Thank you, Honorable Chonga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on this bill. Madam Speaker, something that I learned today during the Requiem Mass, which maybe by virtue of having been on the opposition all this long, is that progress has been an impediment, because every good new initiative that comes up, we first look at it from the opposite side. Just like the youth leader, Senator Dr. Buro doing us in the morning, that whenever we have an air crash of a politician, it is assumed to be a foul play. We do not even look at an angle where every human being can actually die from it. We just look at it from the point at which the politician has died. On the same breath, Madam Speaker, I even thank myself for, I thank the Parliament for the opposition that they have been holding in Parliament, traveling outside the country and see how the world looks like. I am very sure the naivety that has been in me all along, I would have stood to oppose the railway levy fund, because I would first of all assume that it is a scam and that it is a concept to enrich some few. Madam Speaker, there are so many benefits that comes along with this initiative. The railway levy fund is going to open up not only the market of transport, but it is also going to bring us a lot of income by, first of all, saving a lot of US dollars, which we spend in importing fuel. In that, there's so many passengers who come to the town driving will easily leave their cars at home, take a tram or a train, and get to the city, work, and in the evening conveniently gone back. This is what we have seen in so many of the developed world. Secondly, the issue of congestion in the city. So many cities of the world where we have very wealthy people who can afford all types of cars, you find most of the people just use train and they leave their cars at home until when they are going for luxury. And that matter, therefore, their towns are very clear. People move freely. The levy fund, maybe the fear would be the management, like some other, what my colleagues have said. But I think the president needs to take a cue. We need to be strict on the management of these levies. I am very sure whoever is caught and given a very, very good punishment, it will serve as as a lesson to quite a many for the purpose of ensuring that this country moves the direction that Singapore moves to. So for that matter, therefore, for anybody who will look at this initiative from the negative side of it, indeed does not know what Kenya wants, doesn't know what the future generation needs, and doesn't know the direction that countries are looking at. Madam Speaker, I stand to support strongly on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Owen Bayer. Maybe we can try and make it 5 minutes because they seem to be
Thank you.
a number.
Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you. And, Honorable Speaker, this is a moment for Kenya where we are looking at all of us. And I like the use of the word Singapore. Everybody, Kenya now talks about Singapore, a projection for the future. That we are, as a country, we have the ability, the willpower, and we also have the resources available. And we can harness our resources to actually reach that place where others reached earlier. Honorable Speaker, having said that, I want to look at the key proposed amendments to this bill, Honorable Speaker, so that those that may not know what this bill is about, this is not a new bill. This is not a new bill. That's why it's an amendment bill. Honorable Speaker, the railway development levy has been there 12 years ago. It has been there 12 years ago, Honorable Speaker. Initially, it was charged at 0.5%, at 1.5%. Now it moved to 2%, Honorable Speaker. Secondly, which is important, Honorable Speaker, where is this charged? Usually, this is charged from imports, Honorable Speaker, of goods. Importers actually pay 2% of the customs value of the goods payable by the importer at the point of entry for home use, Honorable Speaker. So that is a very important point, Honorable Speaker. So how has this fund performed over the many years? Over the 12 financial years, the levy has generated approximately 310.845 billion over the 12-year period, Honorable Speaker. And that is important, Honorable Speaker. Averaging about 25.9 billion per year, including the partial year to 23rd February 2026. Total collections recorded are approximately 340.23 billion. That is fundamental to know about this fund. So it is not a new fund. It has performed at 25.9 billion per year average, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, these numbers matter. These numbers are very, very important. They demonstrate that the levy has scale. And importantly, it has predictability. You can actually predict and know from the Railway Development Fund, this country will actually averagely collect 25.9 billion every year, Honorable Speaker. Those two characteristics are precisely what makes it suitable for supporting long-term infrastructure finance. If you know that every year you collect 25.9 billion, it is there, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, you can use it to plan ahead and say, in the next 12 years, I'll be able to collect 340 billion, and therefore I can actually plan long-term infrastructure development. And that is fundamental. I can see Professor Wondo is listening keenly. Please listen keenly. On this one, I want to teach you a few things, Professor Wondo. I can lecture you a few things, and I want to go ahead and inform Professor Oundo. So one of the key proposed amendments is expansion of the purpose of the Railway Development Fund. There's expansion of the purpose, Honorable Speaker. And, Honorable Speaker, this bill, therefore, expands the mandate that requires refine, expand, and modernize the framework governing the levy. The framework governing the levy, Honorable Speaker, gets expanded in this amendment so that it fully responds to present realities and future demands, as well as the need to develop and improve our railway network. Honorable Speaker, in this regard, the first key reform introduced by this amendment bill is expansion of the purpose of the Railway Development Levy Fund to include, and this is key, you can take notes, Professor, development, construction, upgrading, rehabilitation, management, and regulation of the railway infrastructure and related transport system. That is the expansion. That is how it gets expanded. Secondly, establishment of the Railway Development Levy Fund Board. You know, the initial levy, and this is very important and fundamental, Professor, you know, the initial one was just established by the Cabinet Secretary using a Gazette notice, you know. But this one now is established as a board. It will have a board that will manage it, Honorable Speaker, so that it used to be managed by the CS Finance wholesomely. But now we have a board, just like we have the NGCDF board, that will now be managing this fund. That is the second key characteristic, Honorable Speaker. Now, this is the most important. This is the most important. Securing additional financing using the funds. Honorable Speaker, the bill proposes an innovative and controlled financing mechanism by providing that not more than 90% of the fund will be used to secure additional financing for the railway. Honorable Speaker, waiting for 15 to 20 years for the fund to accumulate, so that after it has accumulated, then we say, now it has accumulated for 15 years, now we want to use it to do a new railway. Instead of doing that, Honorable Speaker, we can use the present fund that we have as capital for the development of the future, Honorable Speaker. This approach enables us to responsibly convert part of the long-term stream into capital today. And that is very important. Converting what we have to put capital, what we have today for capital today, so we can build the infrastructure now with the appropriate legal safeguards, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and I think I've said the most important, the fundamental. What is important, Honorable Speaker? This is a strategic leveraging of existing resources to unlock greater capital for the construction of transformative railway infrastructure. It will enable the country to accelerate railway development without additional taxes on our citizens. And I want you to underline that word. Without additional taxes on our citizens, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, the board will be accountable to the Cabinet Secretary and to Parliament, Honorable Speaker. The board will be accountable to ensure that the money that they get, even when they invest that money or they use that money to get more funding for development today, Honorable Speaker, there is transparency, there's accountability, and all manner of accountability, both to Parliament and Cabinet Secretary, Honorable, is established in this new amendment that we are supporting. So accountability of the funds, with respect to accountability, the board is required to submit regular reports to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of railway transport at least every 3 months, detailing the inflows, the outflows, and balances of the accounts of the fund. Additionally, all transactions are subject to the Public Finance Management Act, the Public Audit Act 2025, and other relevant laws. And therefore, transparency, accountability, and compliance with the new law remains paramount as we amend this, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, expenses have been capped. Expenses of the board have been capped at 0.5% expenses, percent of the total fund, to ensure that funds are not consumed by bureaucracy. Honorable Speaker, concerning the collection of the levy, this bill clarifies that the role of the Kenya Revenue Authority Commissioner General to eliminate the potential institutional overlaps with the board. This is intended to enhance the operational efficiency in the collection and management of the fund. Honorable Speaker, this is in line with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Better, that drives infrastructure development, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable, my friend, Honorable Speaker, through you, I want to convince my friend, Professor Wundo. You know, I like his thinking. He's very objective. Sometimes he gives us insight into the things that we have not seen. And we like you for that. And you know, you have never really opposed anything. You have only tried to improve what we bring here. And I think that is what leadership is about. And that's what I expect you to do on this document. To document, without preempting his debate. I know he is a good Kenyan who wishes this country well. And the people of Funyula were right to elect him. But I want him this time to be elected in the UDA party, Honorable Speaker, so that he can be sitting in the think tank to help us see what we can't see, so that we can improve things, so that this country becomes better with the contribution of everybody, including Professor Wundo. And I want to thank you because you're going to see the light and come closer and help us, especially on an important bill like this, to help us improve it. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I support. Now, you've been nicely mentioned, not adversely.
Honorable Wundo, you'll have a chance. Let's go to member for Tetu, Honorable Wandeto, then to you, Honorable Wundo. Then Honorable Kimingoi. So we just...
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to also contribute to this bill that seeks to amend the miscellaneous levies and miscellaneous fees and levies fees. Madam Speaker, let me say from the onset that as a country, we have lost 86 years of railway development. The last railway before the SGR was done in 1931. And we waited for a whole 86 years to do the SGR in 2017. Expansion of the railway is a good thing, and I don't think anybody would oppose it. And it's very important that this bill seeks to expand the mandate of what was previously the Railway Development Levy to now create a Railway Development Levy Fund with a board. Madam Speaker, I just want to raise a few points with regard to the amendments raised. And I would like to refer you to Section 4A, which clearly says that the Railway Development Levy Fund will be a body corporate. But when we come to Section 4C, it talks about appointment of a secretary to the board. Madam Speaker, my proposal here would be, just like as in other best practices for all body corporates, that maybe we do not have a board secretary, but have a substantive CEO running the fund. This would be in line with what we see, including in what we have just discussed about the National Infrastructure Fund. Madam Speaker, the other issue is about Section 4E, which is basically securitization of some of the monies in the fund to be able to raise additional funds. And Madam Speaker, in this country, I think this will be like our fourth securitization, having done this for fuel levy, the sports fund, and even what we were discussing here earlier, the National Infrastructure Fund has an element of securitization. But Madam Speaker, and I stand to be guided here, I feel like in this country we do not have adequate regulations and policies as far as securitization is concerned. Most of the time, we read it in the papers, and a lot of times this has been left to cabinet secretaries to issue these regulations. And securitization is a very important thing because it is committing the future revenues of an organization, the future earnings, to basically a specified, contract. And my thinking is that we need to have regulations so that we can even talk about what is a commercially viable thing that should go to securitization. What sort of return on investment should we be looking at? The person bringing the additional funds from the securitization, what sort of return would they be paid? Madam Speaker, we have, like, for example, the Talanta Stadium, whereby it has been a bit difficult to get figures of how much we really as a country are going to pay for this stadium. I know we securitize the sports fund, but what is the return? The investor who brought the money, what is the return that he's going to be getting annually? So that as a country, we are even able to compare. Would we have been better to go to a development partner? Would we have been better to borrow, locally, and so on and so forth? So, Madam Speaker, I feel as we discuss this securitization, because it keeps coming, maybe it is time, and I don't know whether this is a bill I should think about, but just to tighten the rules around, securitization. The last one, Madam Speaker, Clause 4F, and I join those who have applauded the capping of the 0.5%. I think this is something very important that we need to see in more and more funds. Actually, if I'm not preempting a closed debate on the National Infrastructure Fund, maybe this is a good thing to borrow, even for the National Infrastructure Fund, so that, again, there is capping of these administration fees, so that, Madam Speaker, the money that is raised from taxpayers, again, is not squandered in all manner of expenditure. So, Madam Speaker, I support with those exceptions, especially the issue of securitization, because there are no clear rules as to how this is going to be administered, not just for this levy, but for all the other 4 levies where securitization has been done. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Ogunde.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for also this opportunity to comment on the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill 2025. Honorable Speaker, this is nothing new. We are just speaking from a regulation to an act of parliament. I'm not yet so sure and very well convinced what is the rationale, what is the mischiefs going to cure, or what are the problems they are going to cure, but nevertheless, now that they have decided they want to make it a bill, an act of parliament instead of a regulation, let us proceed and look at it. Honorable Speaker, I always have a nostalgic view. I remember railways very well, very, very well. When I first came to Starehe Boys Center School, I went to Kisumu and boarded a railway up to railways here and went to Starehe. And I am what I am. When my father left, he left me into the hands of my uncle who used to work at Kenya Railways and used to live at Mudurwa Railway Quarters. And that's where my 4 years or so, I spent most of my weekends and free time in Mudurwa within the railway setup. So najua chuma reli, najua chuma rega. And the Honorable Speaker, by then, we would at times even pick the train from Butere or Yala. I did not have to travel all the way from Sioport to Kisumu. Also, many times when over school holidays, I would go to visit my cousin and uncle in Mombasa. Again, I would go with the train. I felt so sad at one time when that service was withdrawn or when it became unreliable and impossible for me to use. Again, I was very happy. I think it was 2024. We used SGR to go for sports in Mombasa after Baba Raila Amolo Odinga gave us permission to do so. Because when it came, it was controversial, and he directed us never to dare board SGR. But when Baba said, now it's okay, you can board, we boarded. So that's the history I have. Honorable Speaker, many years, all over the world, transport by railway, all things are akin to the railway, are the most convenient, cheaper, and safer. And they reduce congestion and traffic congestions all over, Honorable Speaker. Again, when the first time I went to UK, in 1999, I was amazed. The leg rims, the things underground, this way. I spent all the days taking photos there, not even focusing what took me there, because I was amazed. So, Honorable Speaker, I remember in the last parliament, we reviewed the levy, I think from 1 point something to 2 point something, in order to collect additional money. And one of the questions we asked then, and vehemently debated this issue, where are you taking that money to? You are increasing from this to this. At first, we were told the money was required for purpose of retiring the loan for SGR. So up to now, we are yet, I hope the Committee of Special Funds could give us a report to what extent we have gone. Honorable Speaker, the spirit of the amendment bill is plausible, but there are challenges, obvious challenges that we must look at. The expansion of what the levy can do is welcome. Probably could even expand it much, much more, including, we have only talked about, I have not seen an element of training here. We could also expand to allow for training, because we cannot keep on having to import Chinese to come and run for us the railway. If we can train here, we can get several universities and several tertiary colleges to train our people. So that's an area that we'll have to look at. Honorable Speaker, I'm a bit uncomfortable with clause 3, 4, especially 4A, that establishes a Railways Development Levy Fund Board. I think that's unnecessary bureaucracy. By the law, as it stands now, Kenya Railways more or less have got the exclusive mandate for purposes of running, developing railways. I'm wondering what is the need of establishing a board, yet we could as well channel these funds, ring-fence it, and channel it through Kenya Railways, and put checks and balances. Just treat it like any other fund. Let it run according to PFM instead of creating another lubricant of the bureaucracy that really, just slows down decision-making, increases the cost for no apparent reason. So this is a challenge we need to have the Committee of Transport think about it. Because we on one hand, we are reducing state-owned enterprises. We are reducing boards. We are reducing parastatals. And on the other hand, we are creating many more parastatals for apparently no reason. So that's a matter that needs to be looked at it. As we look at it, in the event they insist they must have a board, then it will be important for us to look at clause 4B, that 4B, clause 4B, E, that says the number of independent directors to be appointed, board members to be appointed. What is the procedure of appointing those people? In a mature democracy like Kenya, it is important that, Honorable Speaker, we must democratize the process of appointing members instead of leaving the same purely to the Cabinet Secretary to decide, regardless of the qualifications. Honorable Speaker, the elephant in the house is found in clause 4E. Securitization. For all intents and purposes, that's securitization. Period. There's no other debate there. There's no other term. They're presupposing that whenever we have collected so much money, we can't use it to do a specific project or a section of the project. We can get that money in lump sum and commit these funds over time to pay. Again, Honorable Speaker, we have argued here that is hinged on very dangerous presumptions. Because one, you do not know the flow of incomes. You do not know the flow of revenue. You can't predict 10 years from today. Even when we are doing predictive models, we don't go beyond 5 years. The moment you go beyond 5 years, it starts becoming weak and unattainable. So assuming that you will remain forever and assuming you'll get this kind of money, what if the imports reduces? What if we become an export-generated economy where we do not have to import any, and the railway development levy reduces? How do we then pay for what you have securitized and taken in advance? Honorable Speaker, we are creating another loan stock. And that has been our argument. It seems nobody seems to want, we are so much in a hurry to look good, to sound grandiose, to look that we have solved all the problems of this country. Honorable Speaker, yes, it's important to solve all problems, but we can't solve the problems that have been with us for 80 years in 5 years. What is the hurry? Development is gradual. Gradual development actually has got an inbuilt return mechanism that helps to make it sustainable. Honorable Speaker, if you read the medium-term debt management strategy for the financial year 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, the committee and everybody made these remarks, observed in far as securitization is concerned. Revenue tying measures, such as securitization of income streams, may reduce budget flexibility by pre-committing future revenues. We warn, and this we want to go on record. Securitization might look vogue, must look ingenious, but there is a catch. In the event of an emergency, we have no headroom to implement any emergency measures. We must be very careful, make sure that as we securitize, we must have adequate headroom to attend to any emergency or any emerging issues. We will, of course, at the right time, make amendments to make sure that we align the bill to obvious best market practices. UDA Tawe.
What's your point of information on Bolowen?
I want to say this, I like his thoughts about securitization, that we need to do 5 years, we need to do that, and that he thinks. But you see, this Railway Development Fund has shown us predictability. It's been there for the last 12 years. It's not like a new fund. It's not like the oil 7 shillings that we added the other day. This is a fund that has been there for the last 12 years. We have seen its performance at 25.9 billion every year for the last 12 years. Using that data and building on a model, you'll be able to say in the next 12 years, we are likely to do the same. If you look at Kenya's growth and its imports and exports, you can see that as a country, we'll continue probably to import for the next 12 years. And therefore, we have a guarantee of the funds. But I also want to inform Honorable Undo, I also want to be nostalgic like you. That the days you used to enjoy the railway, I also want to sit and enjoy a train from Mombasa to Mtwapa, those people that commute to Mtwapa. Then from Mtwapa to Vipingo, then from Vipingo to Kilifi, Kilifi to Malindi, Malindi to Lamu, Lamu to Tana River, to the port in Lamu, and then you connect with Garissa. That's how you develop a country, by having a vision and also having a way to finance the vision. This is the opportunity even for the people of Coast. We started the railway in Mombasa, but we took it up country. We now want the railway to start in Mombasa and go north, so that those people also can enjoy that moment. And this is the moment that we are able to do that, Honorable Speaker. And I want to urge Honorable Oundo, give us the benefit of doubt. And many people have given you benefit of doubt as you are growing up. As a young man, they have benefit of doubt. That's why you are where you are. We want to give this country, this government, benefit of doubt that we are able to get to where we can get.
I was allowing you on a point of information, but now you're starting the debate again. The Honorable Komingoi, member for Bureti, and then I'll come to you, Honorable Murugaran.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think we will begin from the point that Oundo left. The imagination that 5 years is not enough to do quite a lot, but 5 years also can be used as a seed time to be able to develop thought and infrastructure thoughts around the railway system, so that whatever is begun now may be extended even in 10 years' time as the thinking around infrastructure and development in the country is established. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, Oundo may be reminded that the Kenya Railways is no longer in existence as it is. Probably the extinction of Kenya Railways was made by the government-owned enterprise, and now we have a Kenya Railways Limited, which is now different, and therefore the Kenya Railways Act may not be able to support the work that he's proposing that be done. And I support this, Honorable Speaker, because the creation of the board is vesting the power on the board to be able to carry out these functions of identification of projects, and also not only identifying the projects, but actually executing them and financing them. The current situation as it is, Honorable Speaker, is that this levy is under the Treasury. And the Treasury, the only people who are oversighting this levy or deciding about this levy is on the basis of a committee called the Committee of Oversight, who are the people who decide on what needs to be done. that committee cannot be able to make any decisions or enter into contracts, and therefore necessitates the creation of the board so that the board may be able to contract or make decisions on behalf of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, you may remember the flooding that happened in Maimahiu. The flooding in Maimahiu was as a result of the damming of water on the other side of the railway line, the meter gauge railway. This levy, however much we may have had the money to do the levy, to do the railway, this levy could not have been used to be able to rehabilitate or to do anything that may be able to alleviate the damage that have been caused by the rains with regard to this railway. And therefore, the expansion of the scope of this levy to be able to be used on the meter gauge railway or the associated railway activities, including even what we've been touting ourselves at the creation of the railway city here and the railway square here in Nairobi, to be able to do and develop the city. Honorable Speaker, thousands of people travel through the SGR to Nairobi, Mombasa, and the offloading of thousands of Kenyans, leaving them without options to be able to be connected to the city of Mombasa or from Syokimau to Nairobi city, is also one of the thoughts that I think will be great, so that you can be able to create trams or alternative routes along the line that is existing, or developing new lines, so that the railway can be able to bring Kenyans who have alighted at the SGR to town and be able to come to town and do their businesses. Honorable Speaker, when we created the government-owned enterprise, the Kenya Railways Limited, we therefore, in effect, commercialized the railway line. Just the way we would build roads where people can bring their vehicles and bring their investment and invest along the road network. This also provides the opportunity for investors to be able to invest within the railway system that have been developed and the railway infrastructure. You bring your wagons, you come with your wagons, do business within the railway itself. Let the railway board, this levy, the board which has been created, provide the capital that is required, the infrastructure that is needed, and therefore Kenyans will be able to invest not only along the railway system, but also into the railway itself, so that we can be able to create opportunities for Kenyans to do the work and to invest in the businesses that we need. Honorable Speaker, there are also other things that I think will be needed, and as I read through the bill, that needs to be thought through. The bill does not provide clear functions of the board. And that's one of the things that I think we should be able to quickly and be able to see how to meticulously, clearly define the functions, clearly define the term limits of the board members and the tenure of the board members, so that we can be able to have a clear way of demarcating the appointment, not only the appointment, the term limits and the functions of the board, and to the extent of the limits that are provided by the law. Also, Honorable Speaker, what I actually was thinking, together with the National Infrastructure Fund, is the whole question of penalties. These are huge funds that will be provided to these boards, and these funds will be holding, and the decisions that will be made on behalf of Kenyans. I think it will be prudent for us as a parliament to be able to put clear penalties and penalty clauses that will be able to safeguard these functions and these investments that Kenyans will be making on our behalf. And with that, Madam Speaker, I wish to support this, and we will be proposing these amendments to further improve on this bill so that we can be able to invest. Otherwise, thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Murugara, then followed by Honorable Naomi Wako.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support this particular bill, which bill to a large extent is timely, because we do not have a lot to talk about when it comes to railways in the country. The history on railways is a checkered one, especially going back to 1896, when the railway, then Uganda Railway, was laid in Mombasa. And Somewhere around 1899, it reached Nairobi. On its way to Kisumu, which was then in Uganda, in 1901. The leader of majority has explained that railways are very important because wherever a railway passes, a town develops. And if we go along the line from 1896 to 1901, major towns developed along the railway, right from Mombasa to all the towns up to the capital city of Kenya, which is Nairobi, and the port city of Kisumu, purely because of the railway. So a railway is very important. We cannot belittle it, and especially as the country develops. But all these years, we have very little to talk about when it comes to railways, because what became the Kenya-Uganda Railway never made a profit at any one time. The same goes for Kenya Railways, which was the predecessor of the Kenya-Uganda Railway. And even when we called in South Africans, I remember that towards the year 2000, 2010, some South Africans came over, took over the Kenya Railways to try and make it profitable. Nothing came out of it, and they just had to ship back to South Africa. So this bill now, today, we are looking at a way forward to ensure that we think outside the box by ensuring that the railway sector in the country becomes profitable. And this is why we are setting up this fund, so that now when we develop, Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, will have what are called tramways. These are railways that are supposed to serve the country. And they are much, much better than buses, matatus, and border borders. So we are thinking of a way to ensure that our capital city is served by tramways. The SGR, which is the latest of the developments the country has had, has also not made any profit. I am not so sure it has, because they say it's a railway to nowhere, terminating somewhere near Naivasha. And with this kind of money, we are now able to move it to the rest of the country, Kisumu, Busia, so that at the end of the day, it becomes transnational, into Uganda, into Congo, into Rwanda, and everywhere else. But on top of this, also, we have to construct new lines. Let's just not follow the old Kenya-Uganda Railway. I know for sure that during the colonial times, the railway was actually expanded into Taita Taveta. It went all the way to Nanyuke and Meru, but most of this does not work anymore. This is the reason there is a provision in this bill that we will rehabilitate, revive and rehabilitate the old lines, which are very important, and also put up new ones, because every area of the country is important. We cannot talk about production while we think some parts of this country are not productive. We will have railways possibly going to northeastern Kenya, where livestock is the prime factor of production in that area, so that we do have a way of transporting livestock from northeastern Kenya to our capital city for export and other uses using the railway. Also, my own Tharaka constituency, nothing stops this bill from extending the railway to Tharaka, so that when we grow our grains and everything else produced over there, we have a mode of transport to bring it to the rest of the country. Two questions were asked by Honorable Oundo. The first one was, what exactly is the purpose of this act when the regulations would have been sufficient under the act itself? The levy fees, miscellaneous fees and levies act. Remember, we've talked about the other act. We must cushion the money, because all funds collected go to the consolidated fund, unless there is a specific act of parliament that cushions, that ring fences the money into a fund. This is the reason why this fund is actually being established this way through an amendment, so that the money is cushioned so that we do have a fund from which the money can be drawn without having to go to the consolidated fund. The second question he actually asked was, what is this mischief that goes with securitization? Again, securitization is an innovative way of raising money now so that we are able to get what we want today and spend a little more time repaying that money. So once we are able to raise this money, we may actually use it, we may securitize it, and we are able to get more money so that we can do a lot more at the present moment in time. And once we achieve that, we have a lull of a certain number of years as we repay back the money. It's an indirect way of borrowing. But you have security, and that security is guaranteed. I know he has raised an issue as to what would happen if this railway does not make money. How do we repay the loans? I do not think that is a principle of investment. We cannot invest here and then we don't make the money unless we do not make what is known as prudent investment. If it is not prudent, we have ourselves to blame and we just have to repay the money the way normal loans are paid. Therefore, I support this bill. We may look at any sections that possibly would require amendment or so, but it is the high time we also went into the railway. As we have talked about the infrastructure fund, which will go to our airports, our roads, our electricity and water. Let us have a fund that will now look at the way we use our railways afresh. Not the way they were used in 1900, in the 30s, in the 70s. Now we have to look at it afresh, and especially with the SGR, which we are saying should now be extending to various parts of the country, and possibly at one time we will have it extending to Somalia. Those remarks I beg to support. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Allow me just to jump the queue and just to allow Honorable Fatuma Mohammed to make her, to give her contribution since she has to go and pray.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I sacrificed to be late for my prayer and opening so that at least I could give a contribution to this. First, I wanted to take on Honorable Oundo. Unfortunately, he's not here, but through Honorable Speaker, this fund do exist, and as a chair of Special Funds Accounts Committee, this is one of the funds that we do look into, we do audit it. And for all those reasons, that's why I stayed late here. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Oundo talked about why should we have a board. And as we have looked into several funds that do not have boards, whenever a fund doesn't have board, first of all, it gives a leakage where corruption can happen because there's no one to look into these funds with seriousness. And again, when it comes to performance of the fund, whenever there is no board, it's a one-man guitar. It's one-man chief executive or whoever is there that makes decision on behalf of the fund. And in such cases, we do get leeways for corruption and other misleading informations about the funds. So I agree that the fund exists. I also agree that we do need a board. That board will help us in situations where a CEO might come and feel that Migori is not a shareholder. The board will be able to say that no, every Kenyan is a shareholder and railways should go through all these counties. Honorable Speaker, I also agree with the fact that its purpose will serve, because here, now 4F, the administrative cost of the fund shall not exceed 0.5% of the fund. Most funds that do not have board do come up with figures that don't really make sense, that they spent on particular issues. And whenever you ask them, they say, but it was not gauged how much we can spend as the board. So this is very important, and I stand here to say, I support this levy. I hope that we will pass it, and if there be need for any amendments, let them be amendments that really make sense and not just for the purpose of shooting the bill down. I support and I pray that it passes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Naomi Wako.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this very important Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Amendment Bill 2025. Honorable Speaker, I have gone through this bill, and what has really encouraged me to support it is that it is an amendment bill. An amendment bill that confirms that we have been growing, because for the past 12 financial years, the levy has generated approximately 310,845 billion. That means that it has been in existence for the last 12 years and has had huge contribution to our GDP. Honorable Speaker, again, as I was going through it, I realized that 1.5% was what was initially implemented, the levy that was initially initiated or implemented. And then we moved from 1.5 to 2%. That also confirms that there is some growth. Again, the last 12 years has also clearly shown us that we can be able to predict what we can generate in the near future, with a lot of hope that once we improve everything, then we can easily grow. Honorable Speaker, those are the things that have really made me feel we should support this bill, as I also encourage the other members of honorable members to also contribute and also support this amendment bill, because it is of great beneficial to each one of us and to the entire country. Again, Honorable Speaker, when you look at the bill, the proposed amendment seeks to expand the use of the Railway Development Fund, RDLF, to include development, construction, upgrading, rehabilitating, and management of the railway infrastructure and railway-related transport infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, I was born in northern part of Kenya, brought up in that part of the country. In my county, many students, when maybe in their classes they talk or they educate them on railway means of transport, then they have to come all the way to Nanyuki, which is not even functional today. My dream is that one day we will upgrade and we will have new railway related transport from Nairobi to Nanyuki, from Nanyuki to Isiolo, from Isiolo to Marsabit, from Marsabit to Moyale, from Moyale to Addis Ababa. And we will be able to do some good business that will improve our towns, bring development in terms of businesses, and again, the relationship between Ethiopia and Kenya will grow very fast, while our businesses will also be boosted. Again, with this, we'll be assured of good continuation of businesses that can really help and grow our people. And that is my dream, that one day before I expire, that one day I'll be able to board that train from Nairobi all the way to Marsabit or even beyond. Honorable Speaker, again, when you see the bill and read it keenly, we see that currently the fund is vested in National Treasury. And that is why there is this proposal of having a board that can manage, and vested in entities such as a board, which is separate legal entity. Therefore, the bill seeks to cure that by establishing the Railway Development Levy Fund Board, which shall be a body corporate with legal personality to be able to enter into contracts. This will give them the autonomy, They will grow very fast. Again, we will receive different proposals that will assure us of that development and growth. Again, Honorable Speaker, once this happens, then we will be able to employ many people. It will create job opportunities. It will create job opportunities. And that is why, again, the composition of the board is deliberate to ensure representation of the key government offices while incorporating independent professionals. Honorable Speaker, my only comment here is, when this happens, let us not only concentrate on the areas or regions that already are connected to this, or railway transport, but make sure that we will all be included. Parts of northern Kenya, as I said, going beyond our counties and making sure that we open up the areas that have not been opened up, and also to have good representation in the board and all the employees, to have the real face of Kenya, whereby a child from Marsabit, from Irilet, will be part of this development. And also, because many of the working class also contribute to this, so that we can also be able to reap the fruit of our labor. Honorable Speaker, there is a lot of hope. As we can see, our country is growing. There is a lot of hope in the future. We are growing. Yes, for the last many years, we have not been speaking about this, but today, through the dream of Kenya Kwanza, we are able to think of how we can expand the railway development levy, how we can include every part of this country in that development, and also see how Kenya can grow together without any part being left aside. And that is why today I join my president in the dream of making Kenya like Singapore. With those few remarks, I support. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Yata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From onset, allow me to support the amendment of the Railway Development Levy Fund. If you look at the nearby countries, we have Ethiopia, we have India, we have China, we have South Africa, we have UK. All these countries have Railway Development Fund. Madam Speaker, there are benefits to this. And allow me to say the key benefits that I have or that I see with this particular fund. One of it is going to decongest our roads, Madam Speaker. Currently, if you're coming from Mombasa to Nairobi, the road is full of trucks. But with this particular levy, with the railway SGR, going all the way to Kisumu, we are going to decongest the roads. And we are going to mitigate traffic, not traffic, but literally accidents that come with congestion of the roads. So, Madam Speaker, that is what is making us support this particular bill. Importantly, Madam Speaker, the current public debt is at 10 trillion, Madam Speaker. This is because of excessive borrowing, Madam Speaker. With this particular amendment, we are going to reduce pressure on public debt. That's why I support this particular amendment. Madam Speaker, I have some observations. If you look at clause 3A, let's talk of modern railway. We finance modern railway, Madam Speaker. The reason I'm saying that, if you go to the UK or you go to Italy, these metros. But in Kenya, what do we have? SGR, which is not electric, Madam Speaker. So to ease transport, we need to ensure we finance modern railways, Madam Speaker. Additionally, when it comes to clause B of this particular amendment, of this particular bill, Madam Speaker, I have no problem with having a board, Madam Speaker. So the board is essential, and I support having the board in the bill, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, again, clause 4E, which talks of securing funds to finance other development projects, Madam Speaker, I have no objection at all. It's not a bad idea, and that's why I say it's important we look at a situation whereby we don't subject taxpayers to more borrowing, Madam Speaker, and that's why that particular clause 4E should remain as it is, Madam Speaker. On another front, Madam Speaker, through the Railway Development Levy Fund, we are going to make Kenya competitive, Madam Speaker. Remember, we are the corridor of countries that are landlocked to import their products. We are talking of South Sudan, we are talking of Zambia, we are talking of countries like DRC that rely on Mombasa as a very solid port to import their products. And Kenya has been facing competition from Tanzania, Madam Speaker, because Tanzania currently have their own SGR, and they have an electric train all the way from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma, Madam Speaker. So having an SGR going all the way to Kisumu, and more so considering having an electric train, is going to make Kenya competitive and more attractive to investors, particularly those who want to pursue the line of imports and exports, and eventually give us a healthy balance of trade or balance of payment through earning foreign exchange in imports and generating revenue through that. Madam Speaker, I've also noted that there will be job creation through having this particular levy or this development, railway development fund, the development levy fund. The employment will be generated through the construction of the new railway. So many of our youth who grappling with unemployment will be able to get attached in the employment that will be generated in the construction of the new railway SGR or the railway line that is going to go the way beyond Naivasha, going all the way to Kisumu. Additionally, those who are in the line of farming will be able to get their produce from their farm to the market. And that is also generating employment, particularly to local farmers who rely on farming as a source of income, Madam Speaker. From environmental benefits, if you look at SGR, the carbon emissions coming from railways or from train is lower compared to trucks. So having SGR funded by this particular levy is going to support more so the maintenance of environment and lowering carbon emissions and protecting the ozone layer, which contributes to the climate change that we have been witnessing over the years, Madam Speaker. So those are environmental benefits coming from having this particular levy, and that's why we urge all members who mean well for the country to support this particular amendment bill, Madam Speaker. And then the other very salient point, which I see with the amendment of this particular bill, that is the Railway Development Levy Fund, Madam Speaker, is on the ring fencing on infrastructure fund. Remember, this fund will be 100% supposed to finance road development and expansion. So this ring fencing is also beneficial to us, meaning we'll have money that we can guarantee completion of the SGRS expansion and introduction of other electric trains that will put us at par with the rest of the world, particularly countries that are progressive. And I've already given reference to countries like United Kingdom. We have South Africa, which is our neighbor, that is the SADC region. We also have Morocco, which is at the same level with South Africa in terms of supporting foreign direct investment. So having this is going to put Kenya in the map of progressive nations, and that's why I beg to support and urge members to support the amendments. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Magarini, Honorable Kombe. Then we'll be left with only Honorable Dick Maungu. I don't know if Honorable Bishop, and Stephen Mogaka, and then Honorable Kosgei, are you contributing to this? Because those are the only people left. Proceed.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kunipatia nafasi nami nipate kuongeza sauti yangu katika mswada huu wa mfuko au hazina ya maendeleo ya reli. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza nichukue nafasi hii nimpongeze Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya Mheshimiwa William Ruto kwa maono yake ya kuendeleza nchi hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, yale maono aliyonayo, iwapo Wakenya watampa nafasi ya kuweza kuyaendeleza na kuyatimiza, basi naona tungepiga hatua zaidi na zaidi. Hivyo ni kuzidi kumwombea Mwenyezi Mungu amjaze na hekima na busara ya kunena na kutekeleza yale yanayowafaa Wakenya na Mungu kwa jumla. Nisisitize pia vile vile hata kiongozi wa wengi hapa ndani ya bunge jinsi anavyofafanua miswada hii ya maendeleo. Ni kitu ambacho kinatusaidia wengine wetu ambao tukiona mswada wa maendeleo kama hivi moja kwa moja tunaegemea upande wa kupinga. Lakini kwa hakika tuko hapa na jukumu la kuhakikisha kwamba Wakenya wote wanapata haki sawa na wengine. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiunga mkono mswada huu ni kwamba ni nafasi ya wale wengine wote ambao hawajapata nafasi za maendeleo katika maeneo yao. Hivyo nikizungumza, niko na fikra ya kwamba mfuko huu utawezesha na sisi kuweza kupata reli kutoka Mombasa kuelekea Malindi na pia vile vile iweze kuelekea sehemu nyingine hadi kufika Lamu. Inapopata kufika Lamu itasaidia pia vile vile kile kilindi kilichoko kule Lamu kusafirisha bidhaa ambazo wakati mwingine huwa zimesafirishwa kupitia haba ile ya Lamu. Pia vile vile si hayo tu peke yake, kuna sehemu nyingi iwapo tutakuwa tumeendeleza reli, basi tutakuwa tumezidi kupanua hali ya usafiri. Na kuna maeneo mengi ambayo yanahitaji reli ili kuona kwamba watu wengi wanaweza kutumia hiyo reli kwa kusafiri. Nikizingatia huko nyuma wakati nilipokuja upande huu kwa masomo, reli ndiyo ilikuwa njia ya pekee ya kusaidia wanyonge. Maana wakati huo ilikuwa kusafiri na reli kutoka Mombasa hadi Nairobi hapa unatumia shilingi 6 iwapo utakuwa kwa second class, na kama utakuwa kwa third class unatumia shilingi 1 na sumni peke yake kufika Nairobi. Hivyo wengi waliweza kusaidika kwa kusafiri kupitia njia ya reli badala ya kutumia mabasi. Na pia vile vile ni usalama zaidi kuliko njia ya usafiri mwingine wowote ule. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kuwauliza tu wenzangu tukaweze kuunga mkono mswada huu, na ifikapo wakati wa marekebisho turekebishe kwa ili kuweza kuendeleza huu mswada na kuupitisha ili tukaweze kupata maendeleo Kenya nzima kwa jumla. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Luanda.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity that I've gotten so that I can also add my voice to this important debate. Madam Speaker, one great scholar, Albert Einstein, once said that you cannot do the same thing the same way and expect different results. That will be some level of insanity. He therefore encouraged creativity, innovation, and breaking routines, Madam Speaker. And that is exactly what this bill is up to, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for far too long, as a country, we are used to specific norms. We are used to specific routines. And we are used to specific patterns that have given us no success or breakthrough in what we've been able to do, Madam Speaker. And therefore, this bill is a great innovation. It is
breaking the barriers, trying to bring a new way of thinking in how, as a country, we can break historical barriers. We can break barriers that have hindered our development and growth as a country, Madam Speaker. I've looked at the bill, Madam Speaker, and the bill goes a long way in trying to improve our infrastructure, and in this regard, railway infrastructure, Madam Speaker. When I was a young boy, Madam Speaker, many of the times we would board a train all the way from Western Kenya to Nairobi. It was always an enjoyable moment to ride in a train, Madam Speaker. Fast forward, this piece of infrastructure collapsed, and we now relied on a road network which got dilapidated, Madam Speaker, because of inadequate funds to sustain and maintain the road network, Madam Speaker. And therefore, the coming up of this bill that brings in the Railway Development Levy, Madam Speaker, which creates a fund that will help us expand, maintain, and improve our railway infrastructure is a great boost to our economy, Madam Speaker. I thank the committee for having gone through, Madam Speaker, and coming up with recommendations, Madam Speaker, which, if implemented, will go a long way, Madam Speaker, in ensuring that we have a fund or a kitty that can help us expand, can help us improve, can help us maintain our key infrastructure in the railway sector, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, for far too long, our country has heavily relied on the road infrastructure. This has led to serious deterioration of roads, Madam Speaker. Rail transport was supposed to complement the road transport that we have as a country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I see that there's a proposal that we have a board that will improve on the governance aspects, a board, Madam Speaker, that will be in charge of managing the kitty, managing the operations, managing the funds of this kitty, Madam Speaker. This, to me, is a great move because governance is an issue that helps us, Madam Speaker, to ensure there's accountability and we are able to follow up on public funds that are put in the hands of accounting officers to ensure there's a proper use, Madam Speaker. One thing that attracts me, Madam Speaker, is a section 4, Madam Speaker, that brings in the issue of securitization. Many have spoken many other things about securitization, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that is what Albert Einstein was trying to say, that we cannot do the same thing the same way and expect different results. Securitization has broken norms, has broken routines, has given us an access to extra liquidity, an access to extra credit, an access to extra funds that can help us secure or rather sort out our infrastructure challenges, Madam Speaker. I, for example, look at, Madam Speaker, when Kenya shilling 7 bob was added on the fuel levy, that money was securitized. It has gone a long way in trying to revive all the stalled projects that we have, Madam Speaker, all courtesy of securitization. And therefore, the fact that the board can actually spend up to 90% of the kitty on securitization, Madam Speaker, to me is a great deal. On the other hand, Madam Speaker, we have a caveat or a limit that on administration, not more than 0.5% is allowed, Madam Speaker. This will actually ensure that a huge chunk of the money that shall be raised shall be used for the maintenance, for the expansion and management of this infrastructure, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, earlier before, we had the National Infrastructure Fund that taught on how we can create a fund through which, Madam Speaker, becomes a seed capital for infrastructure improvement, a seed capital for infrastructure advancement, a seed capital for us to transform our road network, transform our water, energy, and such like things, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I want to say this is a very bold move by the government, and as I hear, Madam Speaker, I stand support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for West Mugirango.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to support this most innovative and progressive law that is going to transform the railway transport in this republic. Madam Speaker, those who have traveled know that the most cost-effective mode of transport, particularly for cargo, is either water or railway. And most developed countries name them, Britain, United States, China use railway as their mode of transport, even for passenger. The SGR model was supposed to give Kenyans an appetite on how railway transport can transform transportation. Otherwise, we have hitherto been locked on road transport, which is not only very costly, but also very risky because the fatalities we record on road transport are unforgivable in heaven. Madam Speaker, in Gusii region, we have never seen any railway service being extended there. And I do celebrate the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya for magnanimously accepting that we can not only extend the SGR from Nairobi, Naivasha to Kisumu, but that there will be an extension into the Gusii land, and that we will even be having a stage at Ikonge. Madam Speaker, you don't know how transport will be revolutionized in that region. Because Gusii region, we never lack rain. And our farms, small as they may be, are the most productive and yielding. But the frustration has been to the farmers that cannot get their produce to the market in good time and cost effectively. I say this railway, this levy, this fund we are creating today, opening up an opportunity not only to expand the SGR to Ikonge, as originally approved by His Excellency the President, but I say a railway line extending to Homa Bay County, extending to Migori County, and even connecting us to our neighbors in Tanzania through Isibania. And I tell you, Madam Speaker, that is gonna be a game changer, because those who have been frustrating people traveling by thinking that we were only going to rely on buses and shuttles, they will be shocked that through railway transport, a passenger will get to Nairobi faster, more cost effectively, and that is going to reduce the cost of living, the cost of operation, the cost of business, and that is going to increase the profitability of our businesses, our investments, and our agriculture. If this railway comes and, for instance, gets to my constituency, and you know, Madam Speaker, Gusii land is very hilly and very rocky. In fact, I dare say that the Gusii people should wake up now, because the best gravel, the best construction material for both roads and ballast come from that region. I look at my people at Ngeno, I look at the quarries around Nkora, and I see that railway transport helping my investors and my ballast manufacturers to load cartons, or call them vessels of ballast that are going to be used by contractors to improve our roads. Madam Speaker, my region of Nyamira in particular is very well endowed with fruits like loquats, avocados, bananas. We are the best growers of tea, sugar, potatoes, pineapples, only to name but a few. But this produce never gets to market. And this levy we are creating today guarantees my region of railway services, and therefore our farmers will be getting access to market real time. I also see, Madam Speaker, that our brick industry, because we are endowed with a lot of wetland where our people manufacture bricks for construction. These bricks flood the Gusii market, and do not get away to get to the rest of the construction market in this country. How I wish that this bill was passed, this amendment was passed faster, and the railway was installed faster so that our goosey bricks can get to the market. They are the most beautiful, the most compacted, best compacted, and they are going to change the world. Madam Speaker, don't forget that the precious stone called soapstone also finds its mines in Gooseyland. When we extend these railway services to the soapstone manufacturing areas where Honorable Silvanus Osoro comes from and the Bonchari MP, we are going to get those heavy precious stones easily to the market. And I can tell you, those who do not know that they are beautiful, the moment they get the soapstones, they are going to enjoy the goosey soapstone products, which are admired all over the world. Madam Speaker, the design of this bill, by introducing a board, makes it a standalone that makes it the most transparent and accountable manner of collecting levies and public funds in this republic. And any corporation, and Madam Speaker, you are my law teacher, any corporation goes with articles that govern its regulation, internal regulation. I heard earlier, Madam Speaker, people complaining about a borrowing power granted to a corporation. Any corporation has an inherent borrowing power, lest you forget when a check is issued and the funds have not been drawn or transferred from one account to the checking account, that check risks being bounced and embarrassing that corporation when the bank would have had that discretion relying on the borrowing power in the articles of association to clear that check and then offset it with the other accounts which are in credit. So the introduction of the board and board members introduces a very critical safeguard that ensures that these public funds are, as the evangelists would have put it, itakuwa chini ya mwamba na mwamba juu yake. And I really thank the committee that has designed this, and remember that the board members always have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the corporation. So worry not, Kenyans, that once this board is established, that it is going to be a conveyor of corruption or things of that nature. It is the most transparent way of governance, and it gives the Auditor General a very good framework to track all the funds that have been given to that board, and it is going to help us grow this country. Madam Speaker, I need not say that our road transport is the most unsafe. And the moment we introduce railway transport in this country, that is the second safest road transport, rather mode of transport. And for that reason, Madam Speaker, I beg to support.
Member for Karachuonyo. I think there's only Bishop Kosgei left. Are you contributing? Okay. Proceed, Honorable Member for Karachuonyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to add my voice, positive voice, in support of this bill. Madam Speaker, railway is the cheapest mode of travel. It is also the safest, and if improved, it can be very fast. That's why when I see a fund being created for the improvement of railway transport, I quickly say this is something worth supporting. If a fund is created for the railway infrastructure, I see that we are on the right path, and we will be improving the transport, the railway transport, in a manner that probably will cover a much larger area than it is currently. Like my colleague was saying, we people in Western Kenya would love to see railway line reaching us. We have produce, we have various other products that can quickly find market if railway is expanded to cover them. This fund is on the way towards helping such areas like ours. And I see it that a body is to be created to manage this fund. That's very good. A number of times, questions arise as to what happens to the money we collect, the revenue we collect. If we narrow down where that levy is going to be, and that place it is to be is the board, then we know exactly the people we can praise if the result is positive for the Kenyans, or the people to blame if it is the other way around. So in order that people can have confidence and accept paying the levy, we are on the right path with a bill to create a fund that will be solely for the railway infrastructure and expansion. Madam Speaker, I feel I need to support that bill because of that. I know SGR is supposed to reach Kisumu and other places in the western part of this nation. And SGR is not electric. I look for the day when we can have fully fledged electric railway transportation so that we can gain on time while traveling or when transporting goods from one point to the other. Madam Speaker, I beg to support.
Thank you, Honorable Bishop Koskei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From already I start by supporting the motion, the bill, because of two reasons, Madam Speaker. Number one, it has been proven by countries that have developed after World War II, railways became a functional unit in development that became a fundamental pillar of economic and military power from that time to date. It has proven that when those countries paid an intentional attention to the development and of railway system, both in their urban areas and inter-cities connection, it improved the country by connecting factors of development with efficiency and at the same time affordability. Madam Speaker, I believe this is where we went wrong at the time of implementing our famous sessional paper number 10 of 1965. We went into very expensive mode of transports and began to lessen the privilege of using the affordable system of railway. Number two, Madam Speaker, I support this bill because of the new direction in terms of administration. First, by entrenching into law, moving away from just subsidiary rules to be established by the Ministry of National Treasury and give powers by establishing a board to run it. That means we are paying attention to this particular functionality. And I think all rules apply. What governs all boards and parastatal system in the country. And when the time comes, when we will do what we call a finer and more detailed discussion on every article, Madam Speaker, we should be proposing on some of the areas we feel there are some gaps in terms of presentation in this proposal. I do support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Mover to reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me thank the members again who have stayed on till this late to contribute to this debate. And listening through, Honorable Speaker, I've had very good support for this bill. And I want to thank all those who have contributed. And even the divergent views that I've had, some that are geared to improving the bill, not really much or strong opposition to the bill. Honorable Speaker, I did listen to some of the things that were raised by Honorable Undo, some that I agree with, like expanding the mandate of this fund to cover also training around the railway sector, railway development sector. And I want to believe it's something, if the Chair Transport is here, and I'll relay that to him, something that is worth considering. And also for Honorable Undo, if he can quickly draft an amendment so that part of what we are saying is just construction, development, we can also say training of railway development technicians or experts. Because I want to agree with Undo, it is not fair that we continue to use expertise from outside the country in the development and construction of rail infrastructure in this country. I therefore agree with him. On an issue he raised on clause 3 and 4A on the levy fund board. And he was asking what is the procedure of appointing the board members. And the bill is quite clear. And Honorable Speaker, anybody who has taken time to read the bill, just like the other, it stipulates the manner in which board members to this fund will be appointed. And I also heard him ask, why are we getting a board while Kenya Railways could do this? That is precisely the problem we are trying to get away from. Because when RDL has been under Kenya Railways, who has been responsible of knowing what is being done with that money? Because regulation just said that money will be used or utilized in the development and rehabilitation or maintenance of the SGR. Ask yourself, between 2014 when phase 1 of SGR was done and post-2017 when phase 2A was done to Naivasha, how much maintenance is being done, what development has been done, and where has that money been going to, how has it been utilized. We are therefore putting up a board that will ensure that whatever is being done using this money from RDLF, then is oversighted by a board that is shall be competitively recruited so that we have adequate safeguards to ensure that the money is being utilized properly. Honorable Undo did also ask a question and said, actually not ask a question, he said that we have not been able to do so many things over 80 years. And it's true, since the colonial government has been close to 80 years of the existence of Kenya and more than. But at least under independent Kenya, we have had almost 64 years now, is it? No, 63 years of independence. And Honorable Undo was asking, why is there a hurry to do all these development projects within such a short time? And he pretended that development should be slow and we should implement development projects slowly. That is what we say, those of us who are privileged. Those of us who have come from the areas that were favored by the sessional paper number 10 of 1965.
But tell a child today in the far-flung corners of North Hor that they should do it for development. They have waited for 60 years. Their grandparents, their parents have waited for 63 years. They have not seen that development. There are children who have never seen a railway line in this country. Not children, actually, adults, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds who have never seen a railway line. That is the urgency, that is the hurry that Honorable Undo is asking. Why are we in a hurry? Yes, we're in a hurry because we are late as a country. We are very late. And if we have been 60 years late, we shouldn't be another 60 minutes late in doing what we are doing in establishing these funds that will help us to leverage on the resources and the revenues that we are in. Honorable Harry's child in Karen or in Lavington. And the child in Magarini has an equal opportunity as a child who lives in Westlands. And we can only do that, Honorable Speaker, if we are in a hurry. If we are not in a hurry, we'll be like those who have been there ahead of us. We wasted opportunities. We have been told, and we all know that 60 years ago at independence, the Asian Tigers were the same level with us. We are where we are, and the Asian Tigers are where they are because of the mentality of members like Honorable Undo and leaders like Honorable Undo who ask, why are we in a hurry? We have to be in a hurry. And I must say, we're in a hurry to pass these bills. We're in a hurry to have these funds. We're in a hurry to take this country to the next level of our development agenda for the sake of the children whose parents have sent us to come and legislate and represent them in this House, Honorable Speaker. With that, I beg to reply and thank all the members because as I sat here and in the office listening through to the contributions, I've had very good support for this bill. And I think members do appreciate the need to be in a hurry to take our country to a first world nation and move away from the ordinary thinking, the usual thinking, the lazy thinking of past leaders that we must take it as we were always told when we were growing up that there is no hurry in Africa. But then we were told there is no hurry in Africa. And when I walk in the streets of Nairobi, Honorable Speaker, I see a lot of people in a hurry, rushing to catch their matatu home, others rushing to catch a boda. When I walk in the streets in London, I see people leisurely walking to their underground tunnels to catch their train home. We must be in a hurry to get to that level and get our country to that level. I beg to reply, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. We'll put the question tomorrow. Next order.
Order number 14, motion, report on the audited accounts for the Judiciary Mortgage Scheme Fund for the financial years 2011, 2012 to 2021, 2022.
The chairperson special funds is not here, so we'll defer it. Text order.
Order number 15, motion, consideration of sessional paper number 6 of 2024 on the National Aviation Policy.
Okay, we shall also defer that order. The chairperson, Transport and Infrastructure is not here. Next order.
Order number 16, motion, report on the audited accounts for the Commodities Fund for the financial years 2018-2019 to 2021-2022.
The chairperson special funds also is not here, so that will be deferred. Order number 17.
Shughuli ya 17. Hoja, ukaguzi kwa asasi zisizo huru kikamilifu za Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki na ushoroba wa kati katika Jamhuri ya Muungano ya Tanzania.
Hoja namba 17 pia tutaharika.
Order number 19. Order number 19. Motion, Monetary Union IPU, and related meetings.
That's also deferred. Order number 20.
Order number 20, motion. 10th report on the audited accounts of the National Government Constituency Development Fund for the financial years 2016-2017 to 2021-2022.
The chairperson, decentralized funds, is not here also. That will be deferred. Next order.
Order number 21, motion. 5th report on the audited accounts of various state corporations, Western Region, for the financial years 2018-2019 to 2020-2021.
That's also deferred. Chairperson, Public Investments Committee has it deferred to next order.
Order number 22, motion. 11th report on the audited accounts of the National Government Constituency Development Fund for the financial years 2016-2017 to 2021-2022.
That's also deferred. Next order, last order.
Order number 23, motion. 7th report on the audited accounts of various state corporations for the financial years 2018-2019 to 2020-2021.
That's also deferred. Honorable members, the time being 7:39 p.m., this House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 5th March 2026 at 2:30 p.m.